We've all heard the expression, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. But let's be more specific. If you don't stand for the right thing, you'll fall for anything. And it's understood that we are all on a journey. And sometimes you think at one point in your life something is right, but then you find out that, well, that something that was right ended up being wrong. And now you are enlightened. But that's not the situation here. Kyle Rittenhouse actually took a stand for the right thing. In my opinion, the Second Amendment is the right thing. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I'm talking about any arm. There's no qualification on what arm you can keep and bear in the Second Amendment, which means if you're a free individual, you can bear whatever arm you can afford to get. Any ammunition, high capacity magazine, any firearm, you should be able to own anything that you want to own for your own protection, for your own self-defense, for your own target practicing, for hunting, for whatever reason you want. And you don't owe anybody a reason why you have that particular firearm. Kyle Rittenhouse, let me just remind you, he took a stand for the Second Amendment and he was condemned for it. This is the stand that he took.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no take back.
I support my decision, he said, and I have no take backs. Is a stand on the Second Amendment the right stand? And if you're pro Second Amendment, would you condemn Kyle Rittenhouse for taking the stand that he took? Because that's what happened. He was condemned because he took a stand for the Second Amendment. If you're standing for the Second Amendment, you're standing against Joe Biden because he is anti-Second Amendment. If you're standing for the Second Amendment, you're standing against Barack Obama. You're standing against even George W. Bush, who wants gun control and universal background checks. When you're standing for the Second Amendment, you're standing against Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. You're standing against the Democrat Party, who wants to institute an assault weapons ban, high capacity magazine ban. They want to put extra taxes on ammunition and tell you what ammunition you can and can't have and what amount you can have when they do approve you. So when you're standing for the Second Amendment, you're standing against anybody who would come against the Second Amendment on any level. That's called an infringement. If there's any hindrance to you securing a personal protection device, if there's any hindrance, any infringement, anybody tries to hamstring you or slow down the process, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, it's going to be a 10-day waiting period. Infringement. We need gun safety regulations. You want gun safety, don't you? Infringement. Are you saying that you love your guns more than you love your children? We need common sense gun regulation to save the children. Infringement. We need taxes on ammunition. Infringement. You can't have an AK-47, AR-15. You can keep your handguns, but we have to approve you, but you can't keep those long rifles. That's an infringement. So anybody who infringes on your Second Amendment right is your mortal enemy. I don't care who it is. And that's the stand that Kyle Rittenhouse took, and people MAGA lashed out against him. But before I show you, and I showed you this in the last video, but I wanted to go more deep into it. And I wanted to show you what today's Republicans, today's MAGA crowd, today's pro-Trumpers are saying about somebody who actually took a stand for the right thing. And a lot of people in the MAGA crowd are saying what you did by going back on your no take back, going back on the Second Amendment, turning your back on the Second Amendment, that was the right thing. And that's a bunch of BS. Let me just show you, remind you what Trump says about red flag laws, which is anti-Second Amendment.
That is why I have called for red flag laws also known as extreme risk protection orders.
The new law gives authorities in New York the power to confiscate guns before any crime is committed.
So under red flag laws, authorities, FBI, ATF, local police can come to your home, and if you don't answer the door, they'll bust down your door in violation of your Fourth Amendment to steal your Second Amendment rights. That's what red flag laws are. That's what Trump was for. He was for bump stock bans. He was for red flag laws. He was for take the guns first, due process second. And that's called infringement.
Take the firearms first and then go to court. I like taking the guns early. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
Red flag laws.
Oh, by the way, Kamala Harris, pro red flag law. Donald Trump, pro red flag law. Let's hear Kamala.
Red flag laws.
Red flag laws.
Red flag laws. Red flag laws.
So Donald Trump is for red flag laws. Donald Trump was for bump stock bans. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court had to overturn his bump stock ban, saying, hey, that's anti-Second Amendment. You can't do that. So Kyle Rittenhouse took his stand. He said there's no takebacks. Within 12 hours, he got bullied by Team MAGA, who says they're pro-Second Amendment, but in fact they are not, because when you back a candidate who is for infringement, you're automatically against the Second Amendment. So you're backing a candidate who's against the Second Amendment. Kyle Rittenhouse said, hey, screw that. I'm for the Second Amendment, which means I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul, and I'm not going to take it back. Well, he ended up taking it back, because he wasn't standing for the right thing. He was looking to become popular. And when that popularity got jeopardized, let me show you how it got jeopardized. This is Kyle Rittenhouse's Twitter page on Social Blade. He lost 45,000 followers in one day. It didn't take at less than a half a day for him to tuck tail and run, because he wasn't resolute on the right thing. He wasn't making the announcement that, hey, no takebacks here. I'm writing in Ron Paul because you guys are against the Second Amendment. And, basically writing in Ron Paul means I'm not supporting Donald Trump in this next election. MAGA lost their frickin' minds and then attacked this kid. And the kid did an about face because he's not standing on principle. He says, over the past 12 hours, I've had a series of productive conversations with members of the Trump team, and I am confident that he will be the strong ally gun owners need to defend our Second Amendment rights. Well, he wasn't that in the first 4 years of his presidency. Sitting next to Dianne Frankenstein saying, I don't know, Mike, I like take the guns first, due process second. Just take the guns from an American, and then we'll figure out if he's with it enough to actually own those firearms, says we, the government. That's what Donald Trump was about. And then criminalizing people who own bump stocks. You could say, who cares? I never heard of bump stocks. But you're talking about a U.S. president, Donald Trump, criminalizing Americans, tens of millions of Americans who owned a piece of plastic called a bump stock. That's evil. My comments made last night were ill-informed and unproductive, Kyle Rittenhouse says. I'm 100% behind Donald Trump and encourage every gun owner to join me in helping send him back to the White House. I can only assume that means I'm voting for Donald Trump, from Kyle Rittenhouse. Cat Turd said, I was harder on you than anyone, but I can't hold a grudge when a man apologizes for doing the right thing. Cat Turd is against the... This means that everybody who is for Kyle Rittenhouse moving away from the Second Amendment is also your enemy, whether you want to believe that or not. This is going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because some of the people that I'm going to be pointing out are probably people that you follow and appreciate, and probably people that you respect. But nobody who's backing away from the Second Amendment is respectable. So Cat Turd continues, just remember when it was political poison to take your side, Trump and MAGA was there for you during your lowest point. Yeah, because that was the right thing. But when somebody who even got your butt out of a sling one day starts doing the wrong thing, can you back them as they do the wrong thing? Greg says, bro didn't even make it 12 hours. In other words, he caved to the bullying tactics of Team MAGA. The redheaded libertarian says, I hope Donald Trump will consider Ron Paul as an advisor. Donald Trump is a Zio shill, a Zio banking shill who's going to continue giving boatloads of money to Israel so that they continue bombing Gaza. People are like, well, Trump never started a war. 46 bombs were dropped a day under his regime. He actually amped up bomb dropping above Obama bomb dropping. Didn't have to declare war, but he did help the defense contractors. He did help the military industrial complex. He did increase the defense budget for the Department of Offense, not the Department of Defense. Hope they consider making Ron Paul an advisor. He didn't the first time. You think he's going to the second time? How about Lou Rockwell? How about how about Thomas Woods? How about anybody from the Mises Institute? Any Austrian economist? No, Trump's not going to do it because he's Keynesian. He wants money printing. He wants QE 5, 6, 7, QE infinity. Raw News Alert says that was the wildest roller coaster ride I've ever seen. And the funny thing is, it didn't even last 12 hours. Hope you learned your lesson because you lost over 42,000. It's really over 45,000 followers with that little announcement. Yikes. In other words, make sure you stay with Team MAGA. If you stay with Team MAGA, then you'll keep your followers. But if you stand for the right thing, that is, shall not be infringed, well, you're going to lose followers. You know why? Because truth is treason in the empire of lies. And you got to pick a side. Rittenhouse thought he was picking a side, but he's not a principled person, so he's not going to stay there. If you're a principled person, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if the gates of hell try to assail you. You're not moving from your position because it's the right position. It's the moral position. It's the moral high ground. There is no higher ground. Travis says, welcome back to the winning team and avoid listening to this guy. I don't know. I haven't looked into this guy. I don't know who this guy is. Being Libertarian says it's okay to acknowledge that Ron Paul and Libertarians are much better on the Second Amendment than Republicans. Much better? If there's any infringement, it's not less bad. It's not worse. It's non-Second Amendment. It's anti-Second Amendment. If you're for any infringement, if you're for the criminalization of any American because they hold something that enhances the firing characteristics of a firearm and you criminalize those people, you've become a criminal. Either you're pro-Second Amendment or you're anti-Second Amendment. There is no in between. Hopefully something like nationwide concealed carry will be added to Trump's platform to encourage more libertarians to support him. This guy hits the nail on the head right here. And around we go. Rittenhouse is not MAGA. Replaces the Ron Paul chip with the Donald Trump chip. Rittenhouse is so MAGA. This person says, it's okay to disagree with Trump, but we have to think big. We have to win this election. We have to win this election for the bankers. And then Kamala's side is saying we have to win the election for Kamala, which is a win for the bankers. If you vote for Trump, you're voting for the banksters, the corporate entities who control this whole thing. If you're voting for Kamala, you're voting for the bankers and the corporate entities who control this whole thing, and they pull the wires and pull the strings, and they got their hands on the levers of power. We can have policy debates all day so long as the general consensus is that we need to save this country. You're not saving this country by continuing to vote. Gunter says, smart move. It's a smart move to move away from the Second Amendment. This Joey Manarino says, good. I've been very hard on you today, as harsh as can be, because you needed it. Stay with MAGA, which is stay against the Second Amendment. That's where you belong, and you'll continue to belong so long as you don't say completely insane Shiite like you did yesterday. So this Joey Manarino, who's got how many followers? 500,000 followers. And this guy saying it's totally insane for you to take a hardcore position on the Second Amendment. This is what we're dealing with. Don't you, Joey Manarino, don't you dare tell anybody that you're pro-Second Amendment when you say stuff like this. Syrian Girl Amen says, so they abused you into going back to backing a Zionist. And that's what's happening. Nuance Bro says, awesome to see, man. Nuance Bro is basically awesome to see that you backed away from shall not be infringed and went for Trump. The people that got nasty and attacked rather than offering mere disagreement should not be forgotten. And neither should people who are anti-Second Amendment like it looks like Nuance Bro is. Vince Langman says, in other words, I was losing followers faster than Stacey Abrams can devour a McDonald's Happy Meal, so I'm rejoining Team MAGA because I don't want to get a real job. Unfortunately, yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it. I don't know what's going on in Kyle Rittenhouse's heart, but I know that he moved away from the appropriate right position and moved away from the right position because he got hammered with all his followers. You know, it was a mass exodus of followers. Libertarian Mama says the people bullying you suck and shouldn't have treated you that way. I totally agree with that. Styx Hexenhammer says you did the right thing as opposed to doing the wrong thing and ought to be commended for it. Bravo. You did the right thing by moving away from shall not be infringed and toward Team MAGA. This is anti-Second Amendment language. This is how we lose our freedoms. And this is why I'm doing this video. Because a lot of people loved it. How many followers does he have? 167,000. He's got millions of people following him on BitChute, on Rumble, and on YouTube. Millions of people tune into this guy every single week. And he's saying you did the right thing by moving away from shall not be infringed. Welcome back. Julia says, welcome back. I know you work with the team, much like Trump's had his struggles with advisors in the past. You too should be careful who whispers in your ear. MAGA's always had your back. What's right isn't always easy, but it's always right, and we've got a country to save. So she's saying what's right is going with Team MAGA, which implies that what's wrong is staying firm on the Second Amendment and coming against anybody who comes against the Second Amendment. Ryan Dawson says, Ron Paul is still better on everything. Tara Bull says, this is how we win the election and keep our rights intact. Well done, Kyle. Well done for moving away from the Second Amendment. None of these people are loyal to the Second Amendment. Styx Hexen's Hammer says, again, good man. Get away from your handlers and begin to make decisions for yourself. This is a great start. Your handlers? Get away from your handlers? What handler is going to tell you, hey, see the Second Amendment shall not be infringed? No qualification on the right to keep and bear arms. You can have anything you want. What handler is going to tell you to say that? That's not a handler. That's being a principled individual, standing for morality, standing for the rights of every single American. You are doing the right thing. Notice how they're framing this. You were doing wrong by standing firmly on the Second Amendment and against anybody, including Trump, who's against the Second Amendment. But you're doing the right thing by coming with Team MAGA and doing the wrong thing by staying with the Second Amendment. Thank you, Kyle. The Quartering says, glad to hear. Why are you glad to hear that somebody let go of the Second Amendment? Jeremy from The Quartering. Your comments were based and Trump has been an enemy of the Second Amendment. A frickin' man. Finally, somebody out there with some sanity in his head. It's a cult. I agree with Sal. It is a cult. When you got MAGA out there wooing you away from the Second Amendment, this says everything that you need to know. The psychological operation that's going on here is so thick people cannot see. Nick Sorter, who has almost 500,000 followers here on X, said, glad you came to your senses. Trump 2024. A vote for anyone else is a vote for gun-grabbing Kamala? Don't let anyone take advantage of you when he was taking a staunch stand on the Second Amendment? These people are completely revealing themselves for the Second Amendment hating individuals they truly are. You don't backstab Trump. And one last one. Kyle, maybe you should delete your post from last night. You disappointed so many of us. Just remember, it was all of us who were behind you in your darkest hour. Yeah, that's because Kyle Rittenhouse was in the right when he did what he did. And the judge was in the right to acquit him for doing what he did because he didn't do anything wrong. So now we need to backstab Kyle because he was about to do that which was right, and you wooed him away and you bullied him away from doing what was right? It was us Trump supporters who went to bat for you. We fought hard with all our might for you. It was us, Kyle. We were all rooting for you, and we celebrated when things went your way. Never forget. Never forget. This is not just bully tactics. They're actually manipulating this kid. Remember, Kyle, we fought for you, and no matter what, you need to fight for us, even if it means abandoning your hardcore position on shall not be infringed. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police. Do you think I'm being unfair here? Did I hurt anybody's feelings? Shall not be infringed still means shall not be infringed, doesn't it? And if anybody comes along and violates shall not be infringed, like this guy right here, I like take the guns first, due process second. We need red flag laws. We're going to ban bump stocks. Shouldn't we be against that guy and for somebody who's actually for the Second Amendment? Leave your thoughts, subscribe, hit the like, share this with everybody you know. If I hurt feelings, I'm not sorry. Truth fears no scrutiny. Truth is treason in the empire of lies, and truth is the new hate speech. I will see you in the next video.